And we, of course, have the extraordinary events that we understood yesterday of Graham Linehan, the comedic writer, and he put out some tweets months ago when he was in Arizona, and months later he arrives at Heathrow Airport to be met by 5 armed police. Armed police, not a big deal in the USA, a very big deal in the United Kingdom. 5 of them. And he was arrested and taken away for questioning. He's not even a British citizen. He's an Irish citizen. This could happen to any American man or woman that goes to Heathrow that has said things online that the British government and British police don't like. It is a potentially big threat to tech bosses, to many, many others. This legislation we've got will damage trade between our countries, threaten free speech across the West because of the knock-on rollout effects of this legislation from us or from the European Union. So I've come today as well to be a klaxon, to say to you, don't allow, piece by piece, this to happen here in America. And you would be doing us and yourselves and all freedom-loving people a favour if your politicians and your businesses said to the British government, you've simply got this wrong. At what point did we become North Korea? Well, I think the Irish comedy writer found that out 2 days ago at Heathrow Airport. This is a genuinely worrying, concerning, and shocking situation, and I thank you for the opportunity to come here today.
So what I can't understand is, what was Mr. Farage doing in Washington, trying to sort of raise these issues of specific cases in the UK?
It was actually worse than that, because and I should have said this before but forgot. He was effectively almost urging the American government to impose worse trading relations with the UK if we didn't get our act together on free speech. I mean, if that isn't traitorous, I don't know what is.
This all happened on 3rd September 2025 and nothing has come from it since, despite the utter seriousness of Mr. Farage's actions. Why? I want to unpack this further, because there may be something even more sinister to this than attacking the UK economy for political advantage. Though that is serious enough. The first thing to know is Farage knows his audience. He helped out in both the 2016 and the 2025 Trump election campaigns. He is a colleague, which may indicate possible behind-the-scenes deal-making. So please consider the following exchanges.
The fringe parliamentarian, as you were called, and probably the future Prime Minister, what say you?
Yes, for Mr. Nann's benefit, it's a very big fringe, and we're doing rather well, but there we are.
This narrative of Mr. Farage being likely to be the future Prime Minister recurs during this hearing a number of times, mostly from the Republican side, as if this is something they would prefer or encourage. So what would he do if he was Prime Minister? Mental subtext mode activated.
But just briefly, how did this happen to the UK and the EU, and what lessons should we be drawing here today?
Well, we joined the EU half a century ago, the EEC as it was then called. It was a huge mistake, in my opinion. We forgot about common law, the kind of law that you guys have always enjoyed too. We sort of gradually transferred to a European way of thinking. We incorporated a Human Rights Act, which kind of meant really that, as opposed to being born free, under a human rights regime, the state gives you your rights, for which you're supposed to be incredibly grateful, but they can take them away whenever they like. So we lost our bearings. The UK lost its way. It became obsessed about doing things a European way, countries, frankly, that don't have that history of liberty, freedom, and democracy that we do.
Finally, what do you see as the shape of things to come? Are we going to regain these freedoms or lose them?
Well, ultimately, the people have to get what they vote for. And one of the reasons that we are seeing an extraordinary political revolution that is happening in parts of Europe, and if you believe the polls, what is happening in the United Kingdom right now is we want a government that comes in and gets rid of all these laws and starts again. And starts on the basis, yes, we want to try and protect kids, and we will do whatever we can that is practical to protect kids from serious harm online. But we will get back to the idea that I can insult you, You could insult me, Mr. Raskin and I can have our chats, but we do it, in a spirit that's not insightful and in a way that honours those who built our great countries. Thank you.
Just to tidy things up, please watch these two short clips that bookend the North Korea statement from the start of this video. Bear in mind that this is Mr. Farage's starting statement. It will have been rehearsed several times, probably in front of a mirror to gain the best effect. And it will contain all that he wishes to communicate to Congress. Being given under oath, his listeners will expect it to be nothing but the absolute truth.
Is to go down the legislative route. And it's extraordinary that, I come from the land of Magna Carta, I come from the land that gave us the mother of parliaments, and it doesn't give me any great joy to be sitting in America and describing the really awful authoritarian situation that we have now sunk into.
This precedes the North Korea statement, so he has already claimed once, under oath, that the UK is suffering under an authoritarian yoke. The Oxford definition of authoritarianism states, the enforcement or advocacy of strict obedience to authority at the expense of personal freedom. This does not represent the situation in the UK. If it did, we wouldn't have protest marches, or satire, or criticism of our government. As Mr. Farage makes this his main occupation, he would be in prison.
At what point did we become North Korea? Well, I think the Irish comedy writer found that out 2 days ago at Heathrow Airport. This is a genuinely worrying, concerning, and shocking situation, and I thank you for the opportunity to come here today.
Thank you, Mr. Well said. Thank you, Mr. Farage. Professor.
The reason for replaying this was to let you hear the tone in the chair's voice as he responded to the end of Mr. Farage's testimony. There was genuine emotion, which suggests that he at least saw this as a profound plea for help from a representative of the UK who is caught in an authoritarian nightmare. Most of us are used to him making such extreme statements, and most of us just shrug it off as more Farage lies. We live in the UK and know the government is not that bad. However, Congress doesn't, and they did not know that this was Farage's usual lying performance. So what might this mean for the United Kingdom? Regime change is sort of a hobby for America. They don't like communism. They tend to think of anything to the left of Trump as communism. Nigel Farage has just told them, under solemn oath, that the UK is like North Korea, an extremely authoritarian, supposedly communist state, and made a plea for help to Congress. This may be just stupidity, but Farage is an extremely cautious individual who usually covers all the angles. So, is this a prearranged plea for regime change, with him as the chosen replacement Prime Minister? This may sound fanciful, but look what happened 10 days after Mr. Farage appeared before Congress, followed by a meeting with Donald Trump.
If this continues, what world will you be living in? This is a message to the reasonable center, the people who ordinarily wouldn't get involved in politics, who just want to live their lives. They don't want. They're quiet. They just go about their business. My message is to them: if this continues, that violence is going to come to you. You will have no choice. You're in a fundamental situation here where whether you choose violence or not, violence is coming to you. You either fight back or you die. You either fight back or you die. And that's the truth.
Today, Elon, I think the British public are telling the world that they're ready to fight back.
Good. Yes.
Come on. Can we just ask?
Well, thanks to you, Tommy.
Thank you, brother. Can we ask, what do you see as the future of the UK and Europe in your vision? Where are we heading? What's the future like for us?
Well, I think there needs to be a future where the people take charge, where there's deregulation, a massive reduction in bureaucracy, and generally a new hope, where people look forward, wake up in the morning and look forward to the future. They're excited about what's going to happen next. But we must have revolutionary government change for that to occur. And this is not ordinary course of business sort of stuff. This really requires everyone to sort of marshal the people so to take charge, reform the government, and make sure that you actually have a government that is for the people, by the people. And that's essential. And that's not, and so we're really at a fork in the road here. We're at a fork in the road to darkness or greatness. And that will be decided only in a matter of years. And we must take the path to greatness. And that's the path that's exciting and inspiring and will make life worth living.
Elon, you've done more than anyone to shine a torch on the crimes committed against the generation of our daughters. On behalf of everyone and on behalf of all of us in Great Britain, you know what, we wouldn't even be in the...
So, 10 days after Mr. Farage told Congress, under oath, that the UK is an authoritarian communist state, the richest man in the world appears via comms link at a far-right rally in London, telling the 150,000 people gathered there that they are under mortal danger from the left, who are murderers, and that the only answer is a revolutionary change in government. Okay, Farage has distanced himself politically from Robinson and says he has fallen out with Musk, but just remember, this guy lies under oath. Until recently they were all singing from the same political hymn sheet, and both Farage and Musk defer to Trump.
Now, I don't normally worry about abuse being thrown at me. I've got kind of used to it over the course of the last few years. But to accuse countless millions of being racist is a very, very low blow. Why? Well, this language will incite and encourage the radical left. I'm thinking of Antifa and other organizations like that. It directly threatens the safety of our elected officials and our campaigners. And frankly, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder, I think this is an absolute disgrace. I used to think the Prime Minister was a decent man, somebody that I could talk to and chat to. We might disagree on worldview, but I thought he was a profoundly decent human being. I am completely shocked at his behaviour. I hope when he wakes up tomorrow morning, he feels ashamed of what he has done. This is a desperate last throw of the dice from a Prime Minister who's in deep trouble, a Prime Minister who can't even command the support of half of his own party. But I'm sorry to say, I now believe that he is unfit to be the Prime Minister of our country.
Do you see the same pattern here? The left is dangerous. Although out of all the violent politically motivated crimes in the last 15 years, unrelated to Islamic extremism or Northern Ireland, all 6 were right-wing motivated, with no left-motivated violence. Starmer is unfit to lead, but here is Nigel with his Union flags and Churchill-esque delivery. Prime Minister in all but name. With his 5 MPs and dodgy, over-applied opinion polls, and no viable policies. There is a word for what he is doing, sedition. Unfortunately, it's no longer on our statutes, or Nigel might just be about to add a Hessian necktie to his colourful collection. So, is Farage guilty of treason? This is unlikely, mainly because British treason laws relate to the Crown. If we were a republic, he probably would be considered a traitor. However, he is almost certainly guilty of several acts of perjury in America, and our government should request for his comments to be struck from the record. It is also very likely that his anti-British comments will damage Britain, so he has probably acted in contempt of Parliament and should at least be suspended. It may be that these comments, being under oath and potentially very damaging indeed, constitute misconduct in public office, a very serious offence which may lead to prison. The other issues raised here need investigation. It is not appropriate they should be ignored. While anti-sedition legislation no longer exists in Britain, some of his comments and actions may be construed as inciting violence and unrest under the Public Order Act 1986. His comments about the UK being in an awful authoritarian situation, comparable to North Korea, are emotive enough to cause possible violence among his followers and could potentially invite retribution from America. If you are as concerned as I am about this serious breach of parliamentary confidence, please contact the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards for breaches of the Code of Conduct or harassment, using the information available on the UK Parliament website. Feel free to include this video. I would also suggest contacting your own MP and explaining the situation. Of course, if you have a Reform MP, I wouldn't bother.